we're not doing our job if we're not asking the questions that everybody's thinking.
You know, the talk is that he will not be at the Jets next season. He'll be at MacArthur.
But I was terrified every time I did.
Yeah. One of them you just know is going to have an influence on this tie.
It's not so funny this week, is it?
So I think he is a game changer for them.
Absolutely a giant in that game.
Scratching your head a little bit as to some of those names. So.
You know, the pathway is opening for Okon to actually play a pretty significant role at this World Cup.
The optics obviously don't look good.
I'm kind of conflicted.
There are players probably more deserving.
Yes, I lost all memory of it and just emotion, everything.
I mean, they went fishing and they got me ready.
Oh, that is special. Unbelievable. This, ladies and gentlemen, is football.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Total A-Leagues. I'm Vince Rugari. Tommy Orr is here. Daniel McBreen is still... well, I don't know anyone by that name. So Alex Brosque is back for another week, boys. And there were four in the finals race. The Victorian teams are out. It's a good weekend, though, Tommy, don't you reckon?
Two cracking games,
Yeah.
I think. I mean, I picked them both wrong, admittedly, but I think at this time of the season, the margins are so small, and we saw that on the weekend again.
Yeah,
so.
Agree. Well, Brosque, can you start us off with your best moment from the elimination finals?
Look, my favourite moment was seeing Paddy Wood get the winning goal for Sydney FC. You know, this is a guy, he's 23. It feels like he's been at Sydney for 10 years. You know, never really been able to nail down that starting spot. He's had some good pre-seasons, had good moments off the bench, and that's where he's been, you know, predominantly used. But a moment like this, I think, is deserving for a guy who's stuck around and, you know, worked hard to continue to be in this squad and always be around, you know, some high-quality players. Again, never getting that moment of his own, but that one was huge. And it was one that very easily could have gone wrong. Sydney didn't get many opportunities, many chances. The one they got, he made them pay.
Yeah, strong moustache on Paddy Wood too. I feel like we don't talk about that enough.
It's true. I'm a big fan of his. I think that he gets criticised a lot pretty unfairly, and I think going into this weekend, he might be a dark horse to even start the game. You look at Stammer, he's kind of struggled in the last few weeks, so... You know, fingers crossed from his perspective that he might get more minutes this week.
Yep. We'll dive further into that game shortly. Tommy, your moment, please.
Yeah, Dan Hall scoring the winning penalty in front of the Port, I think, for Auckland. What a performance this was, not only from him, but the whole Auckland kind of back line. They really frustrated Melbourne City in this game. Kept players like Eunice quiet as well, which is no easy feat. And for him, I mean, he's won 2 grand finals with the Mariners, going for potentially a third with Auckland in this final series, and just a great moment for him personally.
And always a difficult one. I mean, you know, the fact that all 5 players, 6 players scored their penalties, being the 7th and stepping up means he wanted nothing to do with a penalty that got thrown into it. And so a big moment for him. Hopefully it gives him a bit of confidence. He'll be first next time.
Yeah, absolutely. And he can... just about write his check if the rumours are true that the Wanderers are chasing after him. That's the kind of player, if you're rebuilding a back four, he's a pillar that you want to have there so you can sort of set the team or the defence up around him. So so good on Dan Hall. My moment is everything that happened before your moment, Tommy.
Right.
All the penalties in the shootout. This was one of the great shootouts for me as far as quality of penalties taken. I mean, there's Andy Naboo, just absolutely no issues. A few others, roof of the net, top corner. I mean, absolutely ferocious penalties. Great to see. Great. That's possibly my highlight of the shootout there.
Yeah, so much conviction. I mean, most of them went top bins. I think we're going to talk about it later, but Sakai's went right into the top corner. This is it here. But no, I mean, normally there's keepers have a chance with 1 or 2, and you think, oh, you know, he got a hand to that, but they weren't even close to any of these.
Yeah, and poor Nathaniel Atkinson.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was a bad penalty. He just picked the wrong way.
To be fair, any penalty that's missed looks like a bad penalty.
Exactly.
You know, and Tommy, you would have taken some and scored that weren't great, but if the keeper goes the wrong way, they look great. But no, I mean, the quality were actually, you know, insane, some of those penalties. And in the end, Atkinson, who had a good game apart from that.
I think he was one of the best on the field, to be honest. So harsh football sometimes.
Yeah. A different player was best on the field, according to Tony Popovich, though. We'll get to that very soon because that's a big conversation. But we'll start with that victory Sydney game. Tommy, what happened here as far as you're concerned in terms of victory? Possibly should have won the game, dominated the game in open play, just lacked a bit of quality for me in the final third and those decisive moments. And then they were faced with a human brick wall in the form of Harrison Devonish Mears.
Yeah, well, I think the narrative, there's 2 sides looking at it. Sydney FC, you have to say, defended very well. They were desperate when they needed to. They fought. They made life very difficult. But as has been the case many times this season, I think Victory just did not have enough conviction in the front third. To be honest, it might not have changed the result, but I was a little bit bemused when we saw Juan Mata, Valupale come off with 10 minutes left, needing that goal. It might not have changed anything as late in the game, but I think those two in particular were pretty lively and likely potentially to get them the goal that they needed. But
that's a cracking save.
Overall, Devon Ishmeers, what a performance from him. And Victory, I think all their season, frustratingly for them, comes to an end. And I do think, must be said, potential penalty. They were on the receiving end of a harsh call.
And they were. There were a couple of moments. I think there was one that was incorrect and one that was, for me, correct. I think the Santos one, even though going at speed, I think was the right decision. And even the other one, as much as I like the fact that it wasn't, and not for obvious reasons, but the fact that the ball's not going anywhere near him. And Tommy, you'd know, if you're in the box and your shirt's getting pulled and you know it's not coming anywhere near you, you'll go down. So, and I feel like that's what happened. But it's always given. These days and the way the rule is, it's a penalty and it probably should have been.
If someone's a metre in front of you, you just can't pull their shirt back. That's just common
not
sense,
that
really.
obvious,
I think exactly like that. He was hanging off him, and that is a pen every day.
We saw earlier the Patrick Wood goal. I felt really sorry for Franco Lino in that game because I thought, Brosque, I don't know about you, but he had a Okon covered on terms of that left defensive side for Victory, right attacking side for Sydney. Had a really good game, but one mistake changes everything.
That's it, and that's the harshness that Tommy spoke about in football. I mean, you can have a great game like Atkinson did and be the villain not too long after. And for Lino, he was great. I mean, any ball, Sydney tried to use the pace of Okon in behind, and every single time, even when Okon had, the ball in space, a couple of metres, Lino was straight on him, defended him incredibly well, and was having a great game up until that moment. But the big blue, it is always about little moments here and there. And unfortunately, that back pass, he got it wrong. Paddy Wood was on the spot, anticipated well, finished it well, and took it. And that's ultimately, you look at what was it that won the game for Sydney. Defence, Devon Ishmeers being, continuing his incredible form. Defence won out and they pinched something.
Yeah. A difficult off-season coming up then for Victory, Thomas.
Yeah.
They got a heap of players coming off contract. The main one, obviously, Juan Mata, no one knows what he's going to do. I'd be shocked if he doesn't win the Johnny Warren medal, which for me suggests he could go around again. Who knows what he's going to do. But I agree with you, by the way, in terms of the substitutions. I thought that was a bit... When Dillers took off those three players, and Mata being one of them, knowing as well that could be his final action for the club, to me, and I was there, it felt like a little bit of the optimism in the place evaporated a little bit.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think that you look at all of Victory's goals this year and where they were created from, and it was basically the players he took off. So that was definitely a bemusing one. You spoke about, though, the players coming off contract and how many are coming off contract. And I think that with a club the size of Victory, they want to be the biggest club in the league. By a lot of metrics, they probably are. And I think that this is an opportunity for them. I do think, although Charles Nduka has shown good signs, I do think that had Melbourne Victory had the proper number 9 that we normally associate with Melbourne Victory, the likes of Berisha, Archie, all these big names of seasons gone by, this would have been a different season for them, because we saw in the first kind of 5-10 games of the season, converting the opportunities they were creating was a huge problem for them, and ultimately in the final game, that's what came to bite them again as well.
Brosque, does Dillers go around again, do you think?
I think he's earned the right to go around again, definitely. I mean, in his time in charge, he took over a difficult period, had a slow start, got them going, got them all the way to a grand final last year. This year, again, a slow start, but they picked up and obviously ended up in an elimination final and probably could have finished a bit higher. So, absolutely. I think with Melbourne Victory, you'd like to think, and they're always challenging for championships and grand finals, and he's been close. So I think recruitment will be key, and he'll be judged next season on how well he gets that squad, because there's a lot of players, like you mentioned there, off contract. So tying those good ones, the ones you need, down and bringing in some very good qualities, potentially a 9 as well. But look, I think there's a good core in that squad and a lot to build off.
Yeah, that's where I think the Tony Bloom connection and the Jamestown analytics will hopefully come into play for Melbourne Victory next season. Nduka didn't kill it this season, but I thought it was a pretty serviceable pick-up for them. And if they can find a couple more of those players and retain the right ones, etc. We know they're going to lose Josh Rawlins. That's been announced to Dundee United, so that's a loss for Victory for sure. But there's something there to build on. I should say, for Arthur Dillers. Speaking of him, this is him talking post-match as well.
It felt like from the sidelines you were very emotional through that period. Yeah, look, that's football. I think if you go back, I don't think we've ever won a game that Lockie's ref, so we'd have to look at that again, but that's not an excuse at the end of the day. We had enough ball, we had enough chances to win that match. The keepers got man of the match, kept them in the game and stood up when it was called upon, and that was the difference in the end. One mistake, and that's the game.
How good's the get your jab in at the ref
Yeah.
and then follow it up with it? But that's not an excuse.
They're compulsory, I think.
Very much so. Very much. All right, let's throw it forward now to the Sydney-Newcastle game. I'm pretty excited about this one. We get two legs of it as well, and it's a good matchup for me in terms of we've got the best attack in the league versus the best defence in the league, and hats off to that Sydney defence as well, Brosque, because the two main centre-backs or starters, the players that they brought in, they think would be starting every week in that position, are injured at the moment and on form if they were fit. I'm not sure if you bring them in, given the job that Popovic and Courtney Perkins are doing.
No, they've done a fantastic job, even scoring a few goals when needed. So I think there's no way you disrupt that at all. And good on Paddy. I'm pretty sure they both are fit or close to it at the moment. But he's resisted that temptation, regardless of who they are, to stick with what's been working for him. 4 clean sheets out of 5 since he took over. And how long can they keep this run going? I feel like there's still more needed from Sydney FC to go on and win 4 games to be champions. It was enough against Victory, but to pounce on one mistake and hope that that's going to be the way you win the grand final and end up there is not enough. But, I mean, Jets' free-flowing attack, it's been exciting to watch. I mean, if they get on that bit of a roll, it'll be tough for Sydney, but in saying that, Sydney's handled everything that's been thrown at them so far.
Yeah, that's what's going to be different for them this week, Tommy, don't you think, as well? We're talking about a Melbourne Victory team that had a malfunctioning attack and lack of quality. The Jets do not lack any of that stuff. They and especially if they have a sustained period, as they have done in some of their recent games where they're knocking on the door, you'd like to think that eventually they're going to get through.
They have been clinical, and I think that, you know, the Sydney FC, if you look at their performance against Melbourne Victory, and probably since PK's taken over, I think with the ball, then they're going to need to do more in this tie, because if you defend for 90 minutes against this Jets team, you're not going to win. Basically, I think that if they're knocking on the door for 90 minutes, it's only a matter of time before they get through. You're going to have moments with the ball, if nothing else, just to give your defence some respite. And I think that Courtney Perkins and Popovic have done well, and I think it's helped Sydney because of the extra mobility than they have to Tisserand and Grant. They can play higher up the pitch, they can press more and be more aggressive. I think that's serviced them well. But in this game, I think with the ball, getting the likes of Okon Jr., who we see on the screen there, on the ball more regularly, Quintal, and keeping it in the front third to give your defence a bit of a break is important.
Yeah. What do you think of that, Brosque? Where do you see Sydney's opportunities in this game?
Look, I see more so the experience of this type of football, semi-final football. I think we saw with the Jets, in the lead up to that Mariners game when the premiership was on the line and they were fighting for that top 2 spot, the premiership. We saw results not go their way and they were struggling to find ways to win. So that's probably the only question mark. The nerves of these young kids going into such a big pressure match, how they'll handle it. We saw that in the end, they clicked into gear against the Mariners and took out a convincing win with the premiership. Hopefully that would have given them a little bit of confidence, but that's my only, I guess, question mark of the Jets. Otherwise, their football's been great, super consistent. Millsy will have them ready to go. It's how they handle this occasion.
I think as well, you look at the first game of the season when Sydney FC went to Newcastle and Toure got the hat-trick. They very much just absorbed pressure, and then when they counter-attacked, they were absolutely lethal. I think that is the template going into this one as well. They know they're going to have to absorb a lot of pressure, but they have to make the moments when they get the ball count.
Yeah.
And I think that against Victory, although they won the game, they probably didn't do enough in that regard to beat a team that's the quality of the Jets.
Yeah. We've spoken about this a few times throughout the season, particularly with relation to Max Burgess playing against his former club, but he's not the only one. Gibson and Clayton Taylor as well, who I should say, the talk is that he will not be at the Jets next season. He'll be at Macarthur FC. If that's the case, I'm sure, wanting to be finishing off in the best way possible in that gold jersey, don't you say, Tommy?
Well, that's a huge move if that comes off for Macarthur, obviously. I think he's been one of the best players this season. Him and Eli Adams, it's very rare that both of them have a bad day at the office. So, one of them you just know is going to have an influence on this tie, and Sydney FC, to counter that's going to have to, I think they're going to have to score a few goals in this tie to win.
Yeah. And that's tricky as well, because you mentioned Stamatolopoulos has not been probably at the level that everyone was expecting him to when he got back from Europe. So it's probably, Paddy Wood's got a strong case. I think the other one they're going to miss is the bloke who we just saw scoring a few goals is Al-Hassan Toure. His pace.
Absolutely.
They've got Okon in the team to try and replicate that, but
he gives
Toure's been around the block a little bit, you know.
And he gives a different dynamic. And I think with Samurai, I'm kind of conflicted because on one hand, I do feel a bit sorry for him. He's been feeding off scraps. You know, it's not like he's getting heaps of quality crosses into the box or balls in behind to latch onto. But in the key moments, and he's probably had one moment every game, he hasn't been clinical enough, like what we're used to seeing with him. So, you know, I think Paddy Wood has to be in the discussion. He also, well, you know what you're going to get with Wood in terms of hounding defenders. His work rate is top class, so there's definitely some options there.
And that could be important because I think that, you know, that would be the template for Sydney. They need to watch that game back. The Jets, as good as they were going forward, I mean, they were vulnerable in defence. They conceded 39 goals, which is very high. It's close to a record for any team that's won the premiership before. So, again, when the Jets, and if they can force them into turnovers, they have to break quick. And that's an area Sydney have struggled with. Someone like Paddy Wood with a bit more pace can provide that.
Yeah. What about the other semi, Brosque? Auckland versus Adelaide United. If Adelaide are going to get to the grand final, they're going to have to do something they've not done yet, which is beat Auckland. First leg, how do you see it playing out? Is it a win for Adelaide if they can come away with that, with anything?
Absolutely. I think, look, the Adelaide United have flown under the radar to get where they did. I feel like, not that they snuck in, they deserved to be there, but just in the way that they did it. They went on such a good unbeaten run to finish the season. But even that last game sort of summed it up. You know, down 1-0, not looking like much is happening. Out of nowhere, Jovanovic comes on, a quick double, and they finish second. So I think whatever they can get out of that game, the first game in Auckland, and then come home to Adelaide in front of an incredible crowd, I think they'll bring them home.
Tommy, what did you see from Auckland against City that gives you optimism from their point of view?
They're coming up against a City team that you have to say was pretty fancied going into this final series, going off momentum and quality in their squad, and I thought they were fantastic. We know that they have that grit and that kind of perseverance about Auckland. They're so hard to play against just because their work rate's so good, they're so disciplined. But I think going forward as well in this game, they had their moments as well. Jesse Randall in the first half had a couple of moments in transition. They were always dangerous off set pieces. You know how they're going to approach this game. They could have the likes of De Vries coming back from injury. Brimmer got minutes on the weekend. Nando Pineacre as well. These are huge ins for them, and it just feels like the longer, you know, if they can stay in this tie in this game, which at home you have to say they will, they'll be confident they can go to Adelaide doing what's necessary to win.
Yeah. We were having a good old laugh last week about Luka Jovanovic scoring the goal that secured second place and a share of the golden boot for him. It's not so funny this week, is it?
Well, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do up there. They've obviously got a few different options. Brody Burkett's a young player who we've seen play early in the season. Craig Goodwin's just back from injury. Maybe he'll get more minutes. I mean, there's so many options, but no, Jovanovic, I think in the heat of that moment and what it meant for that club, you can understand, but for sure that whole club wishes he was available for this one, Brosque.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. A huge disappointment, the fact that he's not there for this game. And again, which sort of speaks more to whatever they can get out of this first game. But I do think you're right, that sort of X factor of Goodwin coming back. He can provide that spark. He can let everybody forget, you know, about that loss of Jovanovic with the quality that he gives. Just having him on the park is a danger. And you know you need not just one, but two players on him. That left foot can either create something special, score something special. He's a good player and good timing that he's back. I mean, it was just fitting there that Jovanovic scores a couple goals and now he's missing. But I do think there's so much quality. Again, similar to the Jets in the way that they attack and their free-flowing nature going forward. Johnny Yull has been fantastic. Aligic from midfield driving them forward has been great to watch as well. So,
and I think one really interesting kind of flashpoint in this game is going to be De Cooley, who we know keeps the width and likes to take players on. But the Auckland fullbacks on the weekend, Elliott and Sakai, I thought were two outstanding. They kept Eunice quiet. They kept a lot of the City front line very quiet. So that matchup, I think De Cooley is often the catalyst for a lot of Adelaide's attacks, whether or not he does something himself, but him taking a player on creates a moment of space or something where their attacks kind of start. And I think that matchup this weekend is going to go a long way to deciding who wins the game.
Well, if he's on the right, you know who he'll be up against is your man De Vries.
Yeah, if he's fit. Yeah.
Has his own weapons in terms of just that left foot set piece delivery.
Yeah.
Probably top class in the A-League this season, would you say?
Yeah, I think he's probably been the best fullback in the league for 2 seasons in a row now. I think that just what he offers defensively, he's so strong. Nightmare to play against, and then the quality of his delivery, he's always a threat with set pieces and these types of things. With Cosgrove in the middle and his delivery from the left, it's just such a good avenue for goal for Auckland.
And it's no surprise, really. I mean, delivered the most crosses out of any team, and there is that focal point there with Cosgrove in attack that they look for, and they get a lot of goals out of. So when he's not there, you don't normally associate winning games and creating chances from a left back, but his position, the way they play, is so important. So I think he is a game changer for them, being fit and coming in and providing that service. But for Auckland at the moment, it's, even this game included, they're still in 90 minutes, they're struggling to find ways to win games, and that's the problem. But going into semi-final football, I feel like the experience of last year would have helped them. They won't fear anybody.
Yeah. All right, lads, let's move on. We heard from Tony Popovic on Monday before his departure, which may be happening as we speak, as we record this show. He's leaving today on Wednesday to go to Sarasota, Florida for the Socceroos pre-camp. He released the first 8 names of the players who will join him and the staff there. And there's some interesting ones. Mitchell Duke, Harry Sutar, Matthew Leckie, Nishan Velupule, Hayden Matthews, Anthony Caceres, Brandon Borello, Nick D'Agostino.
Yeah.
What were your reactions when you first heard this group of 8 names, which I should say is just an initial group? We know that there will be more players from City, for instance, called up. The reason, as is Bajic, as we've mentioned, he doesn't need to be called up right now as opposed to some of these players because he's got the match fitness under his belt.
Yeah.
So there will be more added. We shouldn't take too much away from who's not here. But in terms of who is here, what stands out for you?
Well, I was so pleased to see Leckie's name on that list because, and I spoke about it on the coverage on the weekend, but his performance in that game was absolutely immense, and I still think he has so much to offer the Socceroos. There is a lot of kind of narrative around or people wishing that they would bring through young players and sometimes in the national team that the older players stay on too long, but I don't think Leckie's the example of that. I think that he's a player who has still so much to offer with so much experience. He's so powerful to not play football for that long and put in a performance like that. He was absolutely a giant in that game. If he can replicate that in any form, he should be on the plane, no doubt.
Yeah.
And for 120 minutes,
That's right.
He hasn't played in almost a whole season. I was flat out trying to stay in the park for 90. This guy, is just such an animal and such a well-conditioned footballer that when he takes the field, it's as if he hasn't missed a second. So I think that's the quality, and Popper spoke to that. That it doesn't look like he's missed any football at all, and that's the value. I think he's earned that as well. That right, as has Mitch Duke. With what they've done on the world stage already, you don't need to look at form all that much. I think these guys are players that you can rely on and will do a job on that at that level, which is what we need at the moment. I think bringing young players through potentially for the sake of it when they're not really going to feature. We have a job to do at this World Cup. We need the players that can do it, that have been there before. Leckie, Duke, in my opinion, should definitely be there based on that. Looking at form of a couple of the others, it's, you're left scratching your head a little bit as to some of those names. But I guess as players start rolling in, we'll see more names.
Yeah. Well, let's hear from some of what Tony Popovic had to say the other day. He could not have been more glowing about not only Matthew Leckie, but Paul Okon Jr.
Matthew Leckie was the best player on the park at 35 with no football under his belt. That a young player can't do as yet. Yeah, young junior, Paul Okon. He came in June after playing for Benfica under 23s. He was in the squad. Played in November and looked like a young kid. Plays now in March and looks like that all the weight is off the shoulders and looks like a real Socceroo. So we're seeing growth in these youngsters. Paulie should be the future of Socceroos for the next couple of World Cups and should be the main midfielder there. So there's a lot of excitement around that.
Now, there's a lot of Tony Popovic's selection and decisions that I don't understand, or I can't see what he's looking at, or, he's looking at a different set of criteria as we do when we debate these things. Paul Okon Jr. for me, Brosque, is not one of them. I think he's been fantastic in the A-League this season. When he's been called upon for the Socceroos, I think he's stood out. And in this situation we're in at the moment, which is not only Aidan O'Neill injured and potentially facing a disrupted lead up to the World Cup if he makes it, and then just before we recorded, we found out that Patrick Yazbek pulled up sore at the end of warm-ups for Nashville FC in their match that's taking place right now. And he had to be carried off the pitch by 2 trainers. It didn't look like he could put any pressure on his legs at all. So we don't know what the injury is, but we're in a situation where O'Neill's injured, Yazbek's injured, Jackson Irvine is carrying an injury, still playing, which is good. I think the door, the pathway is opening for Okon to actually play a pretty significant role at this World Cup.
Look, my issue with this one is more, if we're talking Okon Jr. now, after the season, he's had no problem. I think that the whole narrative around that is, and the optics obviously don't look good. I mean, the poor boy is a fantastic player. his surname is the weight on his shoulders that he has to bear, and that's not his fault at all. But when you bring him into that environment before he's played a professional match, he was at Benfica under 23s, as Popper mentioned there. He was a young boy. Was he deserving of a spot at that moment? Probably not. And then that is what generates discussion. Should he be there? Is he there because of his father? And it's a warranted discussion. I mean, we're not doing our job if we're not asking the questions that everybody's thinking. Fast forward to now, he's had a fantastic season, and you're right, on paper and based on what he's done for Sydney this year, he probably deserves a chance, you know, but I think it's the way that he's got there which has people talking. Look, I think there's other players as well. When we talk about the future of Australian football and that midfield, he could very well be that. I don't think he is yet, and Popper said he should be one day. So again, going back to players that we know are performing week out at a high level, your Ballards, your Cammy Devlin, who have been around the national team and probably are more deserving at this point of those positions. That's the discussion, and it's an unfair one because it's not his fault. He's a great player. I feel like it's been thrown on him in an unfair way, but it's a discussion we have to have at the end of the day. And I think at this current moment, fantastic player of the future. It's been great for Sydney, but for me, there are players probably more deserving at a moment where they're at more of their peak.
And I think that, you know, as well, if you look at when Alex Bartolado broke through at the start of this season, and you know, the question was asked around Popper, can he be in the Socceroos? Popper was pretty emphatic with saying no, you know, he's a promising player, but he's not ready. He was Asian Young Player of the Year. He scored 4 goals in A-League matches. He was doing things that I think other players are also doing. So it's just the consistency about the criticism and the opportunity that I think that comes from, like this kind of dialogue. But again, Okon will be on the plane, I'm pretty sure, and happy to see him there. And I do think he has a lot to offer. So, you know, it's always an interesting discussion, and I think that with time, he'll, with his ability, kind of silence a lot of these critics. But for now, these critics are kind of entitled to say what they want.
Yep. Sam Klein, formerly of Brisbane Roar, has made a transfer to St Pauli, where next season he could be joining Jackson Irvine and Connor Metcalf. We don't know what league they'll be in, though. It looks like they're going to get relegated from the Bundesliga as things stand. But this is a feature from him talking earlier this season about his journey from being a fan of Brisbane Roar to playing for them.
He will never forget his 21st birthday. He has had the best possible present. His first 2 A-League goals.
Yeah, I love Brisbane. I moved to Brisbane when I was 13. Yeah, I went to matches in 15, 16 when Jamie McLaren and Brendan Barillo were in the side. There was one where Jamie McLaren scored a volley. It was a ridiculous goal.
Corona, and the touch is in of Jamie McLaren. It's 2-2. They're back level once more.
No, when I was watching, I felt like I 100% wanted to play for Brisbane Roar and play at Suncorp in front of the stadium. They're special fans, so it was a beautiful feeling when I finally made my debut and could play in front of them.
Also on is young Sam Klein, I can tell you, for Brisbane Roar for his A-League men's debut. Great moment for him.
My favourite A-League memory is scoring 2 on my birthday. It was Perth Glories, my 21st birthday, and they were my first goal in the A-League and my second goal in the A-League, so it was a pretty special feeling. Definitely the first one, like, I kind of just reacted quickly to it, and it knocked down the box. I just swung without thinking, and then it went in, so I was buzzing off that.
And there's the goal that goes in front. Samuel Klein for the first time in the A-League.
The second one, I drew a past someone and managed to put it in the top corner, which was pretty special.
Klein, one already tonight. Does he go for it? Brilliant goal for Sam Klein. The best night of his A-League career so far.
Probably the best feeling of my life so far, I'd say. It was definitely something different. I'd say it was ridiculous. I lost all memory of it and just emotion, everything. All my thoughts at the moment just went out the window. I was just pure elation. It was the first time I'd had a win in a while, so it was a big game for us to lift us off the bottom of the table. So it was in the dressing room after, all the boys were buzzing and getting around me. So that was pretty cool.
Great stuff. Good luck to Sam Klein and his new adventure. And Tommy, just quickly, I'm stoked that we just got a mini highlight there of Corona, one of the ultimate streets won't forget footballers of Brisbane Roar.
He was some player, both some player, and great to see a boy from Gympie make it all the way to Europe, fellow Queenslander, so good stuff.
Yeah. Great to see Nalene at the desk. How you doing, man?
Guys, good. I'm good. And, you know, you mentioned it's great, Tommy, about Sam Klein getting that move abroad. He'll join fellow Socceroos as well in Connor Metcalf and Jackson Irvine as well. But I want to actually hear all your thoughts on how high you think his ceiling actually is. He's still just 22 years of age. He's had consistent minutes over the last 2 seasons, and we know he can produce the spectacular as well.
Yeah, I think he has a good physical presence in midfield, and I think as well he's been playing quite well in a team that hasn't been playing well, and that's in that position, such an important position on the field. It's not easy to play well when your team's down the bottom of the table, spending a lot of the time of the match kind of defending. So you have to say he's done extremely well, and they obviously see something in him where they think they can nurture him, develop him, and be ready for the first team at his age as well. 22 now. You have to say he's going to go over there. The expectation is going to be that he's going to be, you know, almost ready to play straight away at that age. He's not 18 and going over where they think, oh, we can kind of nurture him for a few years. I think they're going over. They're getting him over, ready to play immediately. So that's a huge rap on someone so young.
It is, and I mean, look, I can't get past what you mentioned there about his physical attributes there. I think he's such a powerful player. He holds that midfield well. He gets out of trouble. He's got great feet for a big man. I mean, I've sort of likened him to Eric Partalou in not just the way he looks, but the way he plays and gets into the box and scores headers and provides so much out of midfield in what we, you know, for most of the season was a struggling side. So I'm excited to see what he can do overseas, and yeah, great to see him get a move.
A bit of Irvine about him for me in terms of his profile, late runs into the box. And you said he looks like Eric Partalou. Mate, give him a couple of years at St Pauli, he might be looking like Jackson Irvine.
That's true. The drip of Jackson Irvine is phenomenal. But you mentioned as well, Brisbane, not where they want to be, but they're still producing this young Aussie talent, Lucas Harrington. Even in the women's game as well, they had a player move overseas. So it's good for the club in general. But in terms of the weekend's action, you guys mentioned that insane Auckland penalty shootout. And there was a moment where it almost didn't pan out that way because of Hiroki Sakai's shot. So let's actually now listen in to his reaction to the pen that almost didn't get in.
Yeah, I was very tired, so I can't, the hard shooting for them. So I decided aim to top corner, but was too much. I'm so.
Because you run away and you start laughing, yeah?
Yeah, because after so livid, But it was very good experience. Big crowd as well. I hope, this weekend a lot of people can come to stadium.
Was that the best penalty you've taken?
Yes, 100%.
It's so he literally could not control his laughter as soon as it went in. He's just like so relieved that it did go in. But I'm curious to hear from the two of you when you were taking pens. Was there ever sort of a spot that you never wanted to sort of target, or was there a set routine that you did to ensure it went in?
I didn't take many, so you probably should.
I didn't take many either, but I was terrified every time I did.
Yeah.
The only spot I didn't want to hear it was at the goalkeeper, wherever he was. So, like I said, I took a penalty in a grand final once. The first penalty, and if we watch it back, which we won't, thankfully, it wasn't great, but the keeper went the other way, so it looks great. I definitely, like Sakai, was not aiming for the top corner. I would not have been that confident to do so, no.
Yeah, especially after 120 minutes. He said that he wanted to hit it top corner. Like, I don't know, that's ambitious. For me, it was just corner and firm. That's kind of the extent of it.
On bottom to ensure the keeper doesn't get a hand to it. Don't worry, Brosque will dig up that next week. Don't worry about that. So we did a bit of digging in the archive and looked back at the last time Sydney FC took on Newcastle Jets in a finals, which was in the 2006-07 season. Started off great for Sydney. Brosque, you opened the scoring inside the opening 14 minutes, and what happened after was even more interesting. Mark Milligan, who scored for Sydney, and funnily enough, he'll of course be on the opposite bench this weekend. Brosque, bringing back fond memories?
Yeah, sort of, and we'll see now why. I mean, getting the goal, we went into that with a bit of form, and we won that. I think they got a late goal, which sort of deflated us a little bit. 2-1, we went over to Newcastle to play the return leg.
Well, you know what happened
great
there.
memories from there, yes, which no doubt, I mean, I've been on this show twice. We're showing both of my A-League red cards.
I'm sure.
There's plenty to choose from.
The best thing about this, Paul Okon, you absolutely shoulder barged him and you got a second yellow card sent off. Was it deserving on your part?
Yeah, this one I'll admit, yes. Look, I was frustrated. Paul Okon and Jade North had been at me all over both legs, getting into my ear, and I mean they went fishing and they got me very.
Now it is almost award season. Dolan Warren's fast approaching, and voting is now open across all boards for Goal of the Season, Save the Year, Playmaker, Young Footballer of the Year as well. So you can vote on aleagues.com.au. But I want to hear from all three of you. Goal of the Year, who do you think is the top contender?
Well, mine goes straight to Eli Adams. I think it was against the Wanderers. It was a free kick. I think someone laid it off for him. Yeah, this is it. And he just rockets it near post, top corner. The ball was still rising as it hit the back of the net. Like that, you don't see that very often in terms of just the raw power. He strikes the ball so cleanly, and I love that goal.
The fact that Lawrence Thomas did not even move an inch, that's when you know it's an absolute belter.
Yeah.
But you can't beat Juan Mata's Melbourne derby goal, in my opinion. I mean, who do you have, Vince?
I also had Eli Adams, but in a different game. I think, pretty sure this was against MacArthur in that bonkers. I think it was Boxing Day.
Yep.
It was definitely in that period between Christmas and New Year's where days don't count. But I just loved watching this game.
Yeah.
This is a long way out, and this one was just like whoosh.
Wow, yeah.
And I think it's the reverse angle as well. Just shows you how much swerves on that ball and just how well he delivered it. And I was just like, mate.
What is it in Newcastle? All their players can just strike the ball so well. They scored some. Battleado had a couple of candidates as well. They had some serious goals this season.
Is there anything about the thinness of the air in the Hunter Valley or something like that the ball moves a little bit differently? Yeah, that could be it. But, mate, that was...
I think it's more in Eli Adams' left boot. It's just got a rocket in there.
Is that your
Brosque,
one as well?
Here's your tip.
The first one, the one that you had, was close for me, but and Mata's was class. I tend to look at goals that for me are more difficult to actually execute, and this little bit of inventiveness here, I mean, Tommy's got a better left foot than I had. If I'm trying that out of 100 times, I might do that once. You know, and that for me is what I look at. I think the fact that this ball just pops up out of nowhere, he doesn't hesitate. He wants to absolutely rifle this ball, which he does, and it's great technique. It's hard to get under control and hit the way that he does. Beautiful goal. So that's the vote for me.
I think what helped him there was the fact that it came so quickly. He didn't have to think about it.
That's right.
Just went straight into it, boom, instinct.
Yep.
Usually those ones come off rather than the ones that sit up and it's like, oh, I'm going to hit this.
Especially, that was the case for me. I got so far in my own head that less time, the better.
Thanks, Nylene. Thanks, boys.
Cheers.
We're done for another week. So thank you for watching. We'll catch you next week on Toto A-Leagues.